one and only affair recovery specialist, world-renowned, world-famous Hasani Pettiford, all the way from the United States. And today we're talking about how to affair-proof your marriage. Is that even possible? Is it a thing?
It is a thing. I think it is a thing. And I think you can do your best to set yourself up in such a way where you reduce significantly the chances, the possibility of an affair. Now, obviously, there's no absolute 100% way because people have free will and they're going to do what they're going to do regardless. Right. But I think that there are certain things that you can do to get in place.
Except you have Italian friends.
All right, so you under the threat. You're not going to do it because if you do it, I'm like, yeah. So what I would always encourage people to do, there's a couple things, right? So number one, there's 3 relationships we have: the relationship with God, the relationship with ourselves, the relationship with our spouses. Wow. So vertical, internal, horizontal. So if I have a good relationship with God, relationship, not just religion. Yes. Relationship, not just going to church. Yes. If I have made the Bible final authority in my life and I have embraced the fullness of God, that's his spirit and the system he put in place, his presence and his principles, that means that I'm going to honor marriage because the Bible says that marriage is the most honorable thing, right? And we should honor that. And so if the Bible clearly states to me what it takes to have an effective, healthy, long-lasting, committed relationship, and I honor those principles in the word, I'm building up a wall of protection around my marriage.
Somebody actually said, before you cheat on your partner, you have to first cheat on God.
Wow. That makes a lot of sense because you're in a threefold covenant with God. So yeah, he's a part of the covenant that you've broken. And man, and you know what? Even outside of cheating on our spouse, we cheat God in so many different types of ways. But if you truly have a love, a fear, an honor, and a respect for your heavenly Father, then there's certain things that you're just not going to do. So what we're doing is we're talking about a moral code, right? Living life by an ethical code, a code of conduct, a code of ethics that governs how you function. So even when my spouse is getting on my nerves, even when my wife is just, oh man, I just can't take this anymore, I'm going to honor who she is and the position that he or she sits in because they're a part of a covenant relationship that I made till death. Yeah, so absolutely. That's the first thing. Yeah. And then the second thing, how to...
In being faithful to God, it covers things like your devotion, your time of prayer, your time of studying the word, because those things actually keep you strong to face the temptations and the challenges that are out there and you encounter every day as you go.
And that's a good point. Daily devotion, that's you feeding your spirit. Right. But the things you watch on television, the things that you listen to on the radio, the people that you surround yourself, they may be feeding your flesh and not your spirit. Right. And so now you have a weakened spirit because you haven't spent time with God, but a strong flesh, which desires to fulfill its own desires. Right. And so that's why it's so easy for us to keep tripping up in the area of fidelity. Then there's the relationship you have with yourself. Truth be told, a lot of us are broken. A lot of us are dealing with past hurts, past pains, traumas, all types of things that we haven't healed from. And we bring our brokenness from childhood or previous relationships into our romantic, committed relationships with our spouse. And because we have our own self-esteem issues and insecurities, we make decisions based upon that brokenness. And so as a result, we wind up breaking the marriage, breaking our spouse's heart within the marriage. And so a lot of times, because we're not healed within ourselves, we continue to do destructive things in our marriage. So you need to learn how to protect you from your own marriage by working on your own personal growth and self-development, right? Your spiritual transformation, your emotional cleansing, your relational restoration, just all of it is important. So that's number 2. Number 3, the relationship you have with your spouse. Now, this is what's going to take some time. Truth be told, a lot of people are just not in a good space with their spouse, right? So they're disconnected in so many different types of ways. They don't know what their spouse's love language is. They don't know what their spouse's emotional needs are, and neither does their spouse know theirs. So they're living life and living marriage by trial and error.
Yeah.
making several mistakes along the way. And as a result, there's disappointments and frustrations. And now it affects your ability to communicate. It affects your ability to partner and parent. And it just affects every aspect of your relationship. So what happens is oneness, which was established in the beginning, all of a sudden begins to drift apart. And so now we are as far apart from each other as the East is from the West. We don't talk. We don't have fun. We don't date. But the desire for companionship is still there. The desire to be desired, right? I want to be wanted. You know, I love to be loved. And I don't experience that in this marriage. So out of desperation, out of hunger, out of thirst, I'm going to make bad decisions. You know, they say you never go shopping for food, grocery shopping when you're hungry. Yeah. You're going to make bad decisions, right? Yes. So you never want to be in these streets when you're not, taken care of at home and you don't have a good connection at home, because it will cause you out of desperation to make bad decisions. You see? So there's a nurturing that has to take place in your relationship. And if that's not being done, it's going to cause a vulnerability. And in that vulnerable state, we make all types of things that ultimately wind up betraying our spouse. So how do you protect your marriage from these things happening? Number one, I was on vacation recently in Colombia, great place to go. And I was with a friend and I said, listen, women only need 4 things. They need touch, time, talk, and tenderness, right? But really, that's what we all need. We need, first of all, time, quality time. Most couples get so busy once they say I do, and now it's about work, it's about church, it's about my social clubs, it's about my extracurricular. I get together with my friend. We're not spending time with our spouse the way we once did, right?
Exactly. Right. These 4 things you mentioned are part of my book titled 10 Habits of Happy Couples. Mm-hmm. So these 4 things you mentioned are actually part of it. So there are 6 more T's. They're all T's.
That's right. You got to go out and get that book.
Yeah, you got to 10 habits of, because some people don't know that they're actually couples that are happy. Some people find it hard to believe, but they're couples that are happy. And if you can develop the habits, like you're mentioning now, the touch, the time, the talk, all the things are part of it. There are things to do.
Absolutely.
To be happy. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the second thing is touch. Let me tell you something. You can tell when a relationship is in trouble. It's when they stop touching, not just sex. That's sexual touch, but we don't even touch. So when we're relaxing in the living room, you're on one end of the couch, I'm on another, or you're in one chair, I'm in another. We're miles apart in the same room. When we sleep at night in the bed, it could be a tiny bed, but it feels like a huge California king.
So the way I say it in that book is that when couples are happy, they unconsciously touch. So it's not even a conscious thing. Okay. It's just normal for me to say, oh, no, it's not. But when they are not happy, they consciously avoid to touch. Yeah. So they're doing everything possible to make sure we're not touching each other. So it's in that book.
Can we just stop right there? When you're not good, you unconsciously don't touch. No, you unconsciously touch when you're good. When you're good. When you're not good, you consciously don't touch.
Avoid.
Wow. That's just dripping with wisdom and so true. And that's a sign and an indication. Like if you went on a date with your wife to a restaurant, you could tell what other couples in the restaurant are doing well and which ones aren't. It's their body language.
Exactly.
It's their body language. So touch is critically important. It's very necessary. Even babies, when babies are born, if they don't get enough touch, they can get sick or even die in some extreme cases. So you want to be able to provide that level of touch. All right. So we got talk, we got time, we got touch, but then talk. Talk is critically important. This allows for intimacy, right?
Look, the best way to talk is that all affairs start with talk.
All affairs start with talk. All of them. All of them.
People minimize the power of talk.
And when you stop talking and you stop sharing and opening up your heart and your mind to your spouse, it's a setup for disaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you're talking about intimacy, you're talking about sharing opinions, sharing feelings, sharing hopes and dreams. even sharing faults, fears, and failures. Like what I want to share with you is not just the positive things, but it's the negative things. It's not just the random casual things, but it's the personal, intimate things. And when you're talking, you're creating bonds and attachments with your partner. And really, that's the intimacy that we need in our relationships. Affairs, to your point. Wait a minute, you had an affair, and I noticed that you have hours of conversation on the phone. Thousands of text messages back and forth. What would you, like, you would quickly get off the phone with me, but then hours every single day.
Affairs and marriages are built with the same material.
Same exact material.
Time,
talk. Yeah. You know, and that's why we call it the language of attraction versus the language of seduction. When it's the right relationship, you were attracted to each other for these things. But when it's the wrong relationship, the same things can seduce you out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very powerful point. And then tenderness. Like tenderness is like you caring for me. Like when we're not in a good place, you're just so hard. You're just so rough. You're just so angry and mean. And you could tell something's not right. But when you love someone, there's a tenderness, there's a compassion, there's an empathy you have that expresses, I'm really digging this person. Yeah. And when you have those 4 things in a relationship, it really helps to build a connection that's so deep. I don't have a desire to go anywhere else to get what I'm getting from you because I got all that I need and a whole lot more. Right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about a few other things. I think it's important that every single couple needs to establish working operational definitions of what they really believe in. Listen, I've been married to you, spouse, for 10 years. My parents been married for a long time. Your parents have been married for a long time. But what we saw in each other's marriages were different. So we came into this marriage with our own family culture and marinade that was different. The way that my parents handled arguments and fusses and fights and disagreements was different than yours. The way my parents lived a lifestyle of commitment was different than yours. And if we're not clear on where we're coming from, and we make certain assumptions about what marriage should look like, but we haven't had those hard conversations, then we could wind up betraying each other and not even realize that we're doing it, or we assume that it's no big deal because everybody does it. And that's the problem. We're not, once again, talking enough about the culture that we want to establish for this marriage. Okay. So that's critically important. Now, let's talk about this because this is huge. If you notice, most affairs involve sex. Okay. And the assumption is when we get married, we're going to be having sex all day, every day, 24 hours a day. And we get married with the wrong mindset or the wrong expectations that we haven't discussed. And sex is so critically important in a marriage, and it's so good for couples, and you use that term, sexual commitment. They're sexually committed to their spouse. But it's important to determine what that actually looks like in this relationship. And if we have a clear mutual understanding of what that is, sex is not just pleasurable, but it's a protector of the marriage. It's a seal that you place on your marriage. And even, listen, I believe that there should be a mutual benefit, of course, in marriage. It shouldn't be, non-mutually beneficial, but you have to realize that just as you need food, water, clothing, and shelter, because those are needs for survival, if your marriage is going to survive, sex is so critically important.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we had to start a whole ministry about sex because we found out that many churches, many pastors were either not talking about sex or were not equipped to talk about sex. So we got some trained sexologists that are Christian, and we set up this ministry called Wholesome Sexuality.
Yeah.
Because all we tell single people about sex is avoid sex.
Yes.
And all we tell married people is just have sex. But there are so many intricacies. There are things people need to learn. So we have that whole ministry called Wholesome Sexuality. I actually have a YouTube channel, also an Instagram handle. So please follow and subscribe. You'll get a lot of wholesome stuff.
Yeah. I guess the next thing I would say in terms of how to affair-proof your marriage, you made an interesting point when we were having previous conversations. Well, who cheats more, men or women? But then the question was, well, who are men cheating with, other men or women? They're cheating with women, right? So what we're seeing is that a lot of affairs and betrayals are happening with opposite sex friends. And as a couple, we haven't had enough conversations to determine what is appropriate or inappropriate when dealing with opposite sex friends. Boundaries, right? Having boundaries in your marriage is a form of government that you've established in your relationship. And if you have no boundaries, if you have no government, if you have no laws, if you have no laws, you have lawlessness. And if you have lawlessness, you have anarchy, and all types of destructive things happen in that space.
Well, this is phenomenal. I like this. So after I approve the marriage, we need the God factor, relationship with God going, because you must first cheat on God, either in your devotion, your prayer life, or in your fear for God. You must first cheat on God before you cheat on your spouse. And secondly, we need a relationship with ourselves, because sometimes people have certain weaknesses, they have certain mindsets, they have certain flaws. Some people are dealing with lust. So it has nothing to do with their partner. It's just this weakness that has to be addressed. Some people are addicted to pornography.
Yes.
So your relationship with yourself, you have to work on that. If there are issues you need to deal with it, then you need to also work on the relationship with your partner.
Yes.
Because that is one of the strongest form of defense and security. The fact that you are both pouring into each other, and there's no need for you to look for something else out there. And if there's openness, so even when there's a temptation, you're free to discuss it, or even your partner is free to notice it. We talked about money and all that. That's why we encourage couples to do their money together, do things together, share passwords, connect emails, and all, because that transparency is phenomenal. Accountability. Those are things that can affect perfect marriage. And people like to confess to God, but I've discovered that confessing to God doesn't change you. What really changes you is confessing to men. That's what the Bible says in the book of Ephesians. It says, confess your faults one to another.
Wow.
And pray for one another.
There it is.
So look, there are things I won't do because someone is here. But even if I know God has seen me, God has always been seeing me.
Yeah.
So what you're confessing to God is not new to God. But telling someone puts you in check. And the person will know any day you're going there what you should not go there. Like, hey, where are you going into? So we change faster when we even open up to humans.
Yes.
And your spouse is the greatest accountability you can have. The greatest. So, hey, this was amazing. Thank you.
Your questions and your commentary is dripping with wisdom. So all of those who have been tied to your ministry for years are tremendously blessed.
Thank you. That's phenomenal. Thank you. All right. Hey, don't forget, super chat, support what we do. Subscribe, like. Hasani has a YouTube page also.
Couples Academy.
That was what I was going to say. So Couples Academy. So please subscribe to the YouTube. Loads of helpful material. All right. God bless you. See you in the next.